Hi, my name is Pat, and this is my channel, Book Chat with Pat, and I'm glad that you're here. Today I'm going to be doing the Shelf Respect tag. I was tagged by Kevin Toll Reads and by Aaron Facer, and this is an original tag created by Richard at History Lit. So thank you, Richard, for creating this tag, and thank you, Kevin and Aaron, for tagging me. Number one, how do you organize your books on the shelves? Well, I think I don't organize things very well, but I will try to describe my rough system of organization. Downstairs here, you have this shelf that you see behind me in many of my videos, and these are books that I have read relatively recently. There's a lot on here that I've just been sort of pulling from and reading recently, and I keep them here. Largely because I'm talking about them either here on the channel or in one of the many book groups that I'm participating in. I have another bookshelf downstairs here that has all of my SF Masterworks books on it, and it has my Library of America books and some of my Penguin classics as well. Then upstairs, I have a room that is basically wall-to-wall bookshelves, and that is the room that continues to be in a state of chaos. I know where things are. I think others would be hard pressed to find things. On one bookcase, I have several shelves that are just the books that I used to teach. And they're pretty beat up and they're written in, but they're very precious to me, and they're things that I would have trouble parting with. Also on that bookcase is my Shakespeare collection, and all of the books that I used on the teaching of writing. Going around the room, the next bookcase is filled with it has maybe two shelves of contemporary fiction that I've read, not so recently. And those shelves are actually doubled up so that there are two rows of books on each shelf. Hard to see what's actually there. Then there are two shelves on that bookcase just of my poetry books, and those are also doubled up. Again, I know where everything is, but somebody else would probably really have a hard time finding things. And then the bottom shelf on that bookcase it's basically a shelf of books that I've had since I was a college student. And, they're mostly classics. They're very old. I mean, they're from the 70s and the 80s. I just can't part with them. Continuing around the room, there's another bookcase that has, I would say, two more shelves of classics, and those are doubled up as well. There is a shelf on that bookcase there are two shelves on that bookcase with some of my psych and psychoanalytic books, and that's two more shelves, and they're also doubled up. And then there's another bookcase that doesn't match those bookcases, and that's where I keep my newly acquired science fiction books, but they're old books. They're mostly all things that I've purchased second hand. I'm going to show some of those for a later prompt. Then I have a basement filled with books in boxes, and I've written on the boxes, basically what genre is in the box, in each box, but that's a real mess, and it's very hard to find anything. And those are things that I don't really go looking for very, very frequently. Okay. Do you write your name and or the price paid in your books? When I was a college student, I always wrote my name and the course that the book was purchased for and the semester and the, like fall and then the year that I purchased it for. Um, and I have a lot of those, at least all the ones for my English courses. I don't tend to to do that anymore. I mean, for a long time, I did write my name in every book uh, that I had finished, and especially if I was going to lend it to someone, with the maybe hope that it would come back to me. And I just find that I don't do that anymore, and I do not write prices inside books. Some of the books from college have prices on the inside. They have prices stamped on them, but that was from the college bookstore. That's not something that I did. Okay. Do you keep all of the books you've read or only the most cherished? I obviously, just from the way I've been describing my collection, I do keep many, but I am also in the process of actively giving away books. Um, I have a little free library almost outside my front door, and I keep that well stocked. But I also donate 3 to 4 bags of books a week to my local public library, and these are books that they can then sell in their. They have an ongoing book sale, and so I've been donating a lot. I have a lot more to donate. Like I need to go through the basement and start, getting getting rid of much of what's down there. But I certainly keep my cherished books. I keep the books that I taught. I keep the books that I read for English classes in college and in graduate school. I keep books that belonged to my parents. And I certainly keep, these special things that I'm collecting, a couple of which I will show for one of the later prompts. Number 5, does the style and quality of your bookshelves and or cases matter? It probably should matter to me more, but it really doesn't. Upstairs, I have tall, floor to ceiling bookcases that match, and then I have this mismatched bookcase that doesn't fit in there at all, but I needed another shelf. I don't know that the quality of these bookcases is so great, but it is a source of pride that I built them myself. And actually with the help of a friend who happened to just drop by as I was building these bookcases. So I don't know that they're the best quality, but they are sturdy and they're very practical, and I built them myself. So that's a source of pride. The shelves that I have down here in the living room are actually pieces of furniture, and they are probably better quality than what I have upstairs in the library. Okay. Number 6, do you have any gripes or complaints about bookcase construction? No. I mean, that I was able to build these bookcases myself, I think is a minor miracle. And they have held up. They've been up there for over 20 years. So, and they haven't fallen apart. They're not falling over. So, no, I don't have any complaints about bookcase construction. Do you ever stack books horizontally? Yes, I do. You can see that even behind me here. It's not the most, it's not the easiest way to get at books when you have stacked things horizontally. I have no choice. I just don't have any room. So, where I can get more books on a shelf if I stack horizontally, I have taken to doing that. Okay, what are your 5 favorite jackets or covers. For that, I want to just talk about it's more a couple of series of books where I really, really like the covers. I mentioned that I've been, reading some vintage science fiction for a while now, thanks largely to Michael K. Vaughan. And I have purchased a lot of secondhand vintage science fiction, and some of these just have really magnificent covers. From Michael, I learned about Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter of Mars series, and while I have a single volume edition of the Barsoom novels, I also have these pretty cool paperbacks. These are Ballantine Del Rey editions. Here's just a couple, and I just think the covers, the artwork on these is just really phenomenal. And Michael can talk more about who the artist is on all of these. He knows all about that. I just know that they're magnificent to look at. So those are some examples. Here's a Robert A. Heinlein rocket ship Galileo, also kind of a cool cover. You just don't see covers like this anymore. Here's a Clifford D. Simak Worlds Without End, also very cool old vintage cover. And these were, this cost 50 cents when it was originally sold. So that's one. My vintage science fiction covers, I think, are really phenomenal. A beautiful book cover that I have, and I have many copies, many different editions of Frankenstein, but I have this one painted cover edition that I think is really, really beautiful. It has some illustrations in it also that are pretty lovely. Well, I guess the same illustrations kind of repeat, but there's an example. So it's just I think a beautiful addition. So that's another one. I have some. I don't have a lot, but I have maybe a handful, maybe 5 of the Penguin Classics Deluxe editions, and I think they're really lovely too. I've shown this book for many of my videos, Victor Hugo's Les Miserables. I think the artwork on this is just stunning. And I think this Moby Dick cover is also, this is another Penguin Classic Deluxe edition. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful cover. So I think they're pretty special. I like the standard Penguin Classics, the black editions also. I think they're just very classic looking, but I do like these artistic deluxe editions. And then I have started collecting also the Library of America books, and I just think that this is a classic style. They always look like this. It's the black book cover with the red, white, and blue. Usually there's a picture also on the front cover. Sometimes it's of the author, sometimes it's something else, but I just think it's a classic series. Here's the American Poetry Edition, 19th Century, Volume 1. But I just think they're classic. I like those a lot. And then I mentioned that I have started collecting the SF Masterworks series. I have barely made a dent, but when I see them at a price that I can afford, I tend to pick them up. And at least right now, this is what they usually look like. They have, the SF logo on the spine, kind of a pale yellow. But I think they always have really interesting covers. There's Roger Zelazny. I have Arthur C. Clarke. I just find the covers really interesting, and they're very solid. I mean, they're paperbacks, but they're very, very sturdy. There's Clifford D. Simak. H.G. Wells, I have a bunch of his from this series. Jack Finney, The Body Snatchers. So I just think that's a classic style. Now there are series within this series, and I don't have any of those sub-series, but you could probably devote your life to to collecting these and all the different sort of sub genres within or sub-series within the collection. But all of the ones that I have are just part of this SF Masterwork sort of general series. I'm sure that's not the right term for it, but anyway, I think that that's a classic style. Okay, your 5 most disliked jackets or covers and why. I don't have 5, but I do have a couple. I have 2 examples that I want to talk about, and I've talked about this in other videos. I don't like covers that are media related. I try to avoid, if I'm going to buy a novel, I try to avoid buying the movie version of the novel, with a picture from the movie or from a Netflix series or something like that. But here was an example where I guess I didn't have a choice. I absolutely adored Michael Cunningham's novel, The Hours, and he won the Pulitzer Prize for this. And I also loved the movie. I mean, it was a great movie, and it's a magnificent novel. But, here's Meryl Streep, Julianne Moore, and Nicole Kidman on the cover. I mean, I love these actresses. I thought they were great in the movie. I don't want them on the cover of the novel. So this is an example. I must have had no choice when I bought this, but that's an example of one that I don't love. And then I've talked in other videos about the fact that I'm in a book group right now where we're reading the works of Claudia Pinheiro that have been translated from the Spanish into English. And we have been discussing actually the different covers of her books, because the older editions were published by a different company from the one she's using now. The early novels were published by Bitter Lemon Press out of London. And this was the first one that we read, All Yours. That's her first novel translated into English. And the one that we're starting this week is Thursday Night Widows. And this is also by the Bitter Lemon Press, and part of their crime series. And we were talking about this, that these covers, they don't do the books justice at all. They almost have nothing to do with the books, and they seem sort of sensational. There was a marketing decision. I'm not sure what the decision was, but there was definitely a marketing decision made with these covers, and we kind of universally in our group didn't like those. So those were that's 3 books I showed, but it's really 2 examples. Those are the only 2 examples I could come up with. Maybe there are others that I haven't liked over the years, but I couldn't think of anything else right now. Okay. Is there such a thing as too many books? In theory, I would say no. But practically speaking, clearly there is. I have run out of space. I don't have room for more books. As I said, I'm donating actively. I have a basement filled with books that it's almost impossible to access them. I mean, I can get at them, but I don't really know where anything is. So, this is why I'm donating by the bagful, several bags a week. So in theory, no, you could never have too many books. But realistically and practically speaking, yes, I have run out of space, and I don't really want to leave this for somebody else to have to figure out what to do with, when that time comes. I've got to get this collection under control. Okay. And then finally, the last question is just to tag others. So if you're watching this and you would like to kind of do an inventory and look at how you organize or don't organize your books, please consider yourself tagged by me. I'd love to see your video. And as I always do, I'm going to tag some people in the notes below. And no pressure ever. Everybody's under a lot of pressure right now. No pressure, but I'm always interested in seeing people's tags. So I'll tag a bunch of people down below. So thank you again, Richard, for creating this tag, and thank you, Aaron and Kevin, for tagging me. As always, I hope that you're doing well. I'll speak with you again soon. Take care.